Yes, it is the new ball for Cobram Estate Premium Australian Extra Virgin Olive Oil and Australia made by local Adam White and Bharat Sundaresan with you from Kensington Oval. As we look out over the ground, there is no one here except for one groundskeeper who looks like he's doing some weeding out at
that's what it looks like,
at cover. And we've had a lot of rain here today. A little bit of sunshine at the moment, but a pretty wet day in Barbados. So who knows if the West Indies had held on and got it into day 4. You never know. We might have been here on day 5, but it wasn't the case. Bharat Sundaresan, welcome.
Good morning, Adam White, and good evening, and whatever time of the day it is. I have no idea what it will be when you listen to this, but hope you're having a good day and hope you had a brilliant day yesterday and hope you have a brilliant day tomorrow. And we are having the time of our lives here. It's a very cloudy, gloomy morning here in Barbados. The forecast is for a lot of rain. You've just told me that will not interfere with the races later this afternoon.
That's right. Well, I hope not.
On the savannah, so we're all planning to go there. But yeah, I mean, it's a reminder of what goes into or how much goes into the broadcast of each test match or each day of every test match, doesn't it, Whitey? Just seeing the D-rig going on of all sorts of equipment all around the ground, it's hard work.
It is, and it all goes off to Grenada next week, very early next week. Look, it truly was cricket in fast forward yesterday for 3 days, and in the last session on day 3, it was fast forward. And in the end, look, Australia won by 159 runs, but it certainly didn't tell the full story. Australia was in all sorts of trouble on a number of occasions, including on that final day. But I guess with some help from the West Indies and their lack of catching, 7 drop catches across the course of the match. The third umpire didn't go their way. And some good middle order batting from the Australians in the second innings. They certainly got themselves on top. And then the bowlers and some horrible batting from the West Indies saw the floor fall out of their performance. And then, of course, that finish that we thought had finished about 5 times ended in the dark. It was one of those days that I'll never forget, certainly. Look, as we're still trying to come to terms with it all, and as we do, let's just go back to yesterday and reflect on what was an amazing day of Test cricket.
Shamar, the gunner end, bowls here, head aerial, up over the top of cover. Deep point won't have a chance to cut it off. Into the rope it goes. Cavalier, 2 6 of the gully. Bowls to Webster, driving through the covers for 4. That is a beautiful shot. Top of the bounce, trusting his swings. Yet to go short, Joseph. Round the wicket to head. Bowls here, head edges and drops at second slip. Can you believe it? I simply can't.
Alzari Joseph starts a new over and head says thank you. That's gone. Half volley through the covers, 4 runs.
Graves as he moves into bowl to head into this delivery. Head is forward and drives to the offside. Lovely shot, 4 runs. And what a way to bring up the 50, splitting the extra cover helmet off.
Here is Shamar bowling to Travis Head, who chops down hard and beats Gully, 4 runs, bad fielding. Through the hands of the man in the gully. 8 runs from the over so far. Last ball of it, Shamar hits him low, keeps low gone, leg before. Absolutely no doubt. Head's on his knees, he knows.
Carey slashing through the offside for 4. Joseph gave Carey width, and he jumped into that one.
He's up here bowling, Seals, and steering through the cordon for 4 is Webster. That'll take him to a half century. A really well-made half century. The justification of his selection. 11 runs from the over. Webster's turn. Leg stump one. Down the leg side. Is he strangled? Webster walking away. Umpire Mennon's not convinced. We're about to find out via DRS. Yes, there is. There is a spike. It's a great review.
Seals bowls. Carey advances and hits spectacularly down the ground for 6. Graves again. Bowling to Carey. Advances. Oh, that's massive. Lifting high on top of the super boxes here. And that is 50 to Alex Carey. Chase bowls again. Carey. It's a wide one. He's hit it high in the air. This hasn't gone far enough. Should be caught. He's caught. Carey out. He couldn't help himself, Alex Carey.
Here's Shamar Joseph from the gunner end. Can he finish it here? Bowls to Hazlewood. Bowls him. Knocks him over. So Shamar Joseph will finish with 9 wickets in the match. A 5-wicket bag. He kisses the turf. The Windies bowled out Australia for 310, which means they have a lead of an even 300. Starc to him here. Flicks again to square leg. Konstas, there he is. He was the catching man. Australia get a wicket in the first over.
Past the umpire, he bowls. Edging and drop by Green in the gully. Carney has a life now.
It comes into bowl to Campbell, and Campbell is looking to lap the ball. It's going to be taken. Is he gone? He's gone.
Oh, no.
Now that's a terrible way to get up. What was he doing? Here is his little Bolson. He's rocked to the pad. Taken. There's an appeal. And he's gone.
Hazlewood's got 3. He's in here. Bowls him. Oh, Carney's got the middle and off stump bent back.
Now we go here. We'll take a single up to mid-off. Just no timing the shot. Labuschagne hit the stumps! Labuschagne hit the stumps! Surely this isn't out! He thinks it is! Elzari Joseph stretching. He's gone! He's gone! Hazlewood on the approach. Past the umpire bowls to Joseph. Oh, good shot, Joseph! Swinging it down the ground and into the stands. Over long on. Nathan Lyon. He bowls. Joseph swings again on one knee. That's gone miles. Huge 6. No, we're ready to go again. Lyon bowls. Joseph. Oh, edge. Balloons up off the gloves of Carey to Kawaja. Out. All right, they're continuing on. Nathan Lyon around the wicket, bowls to Seals. Oh, out. Out. Konstas has taken the catch at bat pad. Squeezing off the inside edge. Straight into Konstas' hands. And he's taken it with 2 balls left in the day.
It was one of those things where we were laughing towards the end because we couldn't believe what was happening. We thought it was over at 5:30. We thought it was over Bharat Sundaresan at 6 o'clock, at 6:05, at 6:10. It ended up going to 6:13.
Well, we've seen it doesn't happen very often, but play being extended by a half hour to finish a game. But yesterday was bizarre for so many reasons, Whitey. The light was fading, so the umpires, unless it's regular play and the lights come into play, it's different. But the fact that they continued playing on and then even asked for the lights to come on. And then we were told initially it's just half an hour. Then we were told no, it's a minimum of 8 overs. So I went and looked at the scoreboard and it was the 8th over. So probably, and we were told this is the last over, this is the last over.
Thing. We were getting information,
Correct.
Official information saying that it was
4 different times.
finishing.
So it was just all meant to be. Maybe everybody just wanted to wrap it up. And looking at the forecast for today and just the way the clouds are honing in over the Kensington Oval, maybe that makes sense.
And that I agree with you. Common sense actually did prevail, which doesn't usually happen in cricket, because there is no doubt under normal circumstances they would have gone off a bad line. Don't worry about the extra half hour and all these sorts of things. We did play the last probably 2 overs, not in the dark, but the lights were full effect. Yeah. It was like watching day-night test cricket with a red ball.
But now
they were allowed to bowl the fast bowlers as well.
Now the question is tomorrow, if we are in a scenario where it's not the finish of the game, but just normal players going off for bad light or bad light coming into play, will this be used as a precedent? And right? So
we've got a new foundation.
Well, I think credit to two very senior umpires or two seasoned umpires, Richard Kettleborough in his 92nd test. So now he's level with David Shepherd for most capped English test umpires. He goes past David Shepherd in a few days' time in Grenada. So, maybe common sense had to prevail. But what it did result in is some outrageous cricket. I mean, the Shamar Joseph cameo that we both enjoyed, and the crowd was loving every bit of it. And just Australia finding a way to close out a match which, weirdly enough, I mean, if you look at the overall result, 159 runs, West Indies smashed and bowled out in, 33, 34 overs, you'd think this was Australia all the way. But the fact that they were able to turn around this test match in the space of 60, 70 overs, because let's face it, when Travis Head was dropped and the lead was 98, West Indies, if anything, were ahead. And in, less than 60 overs from that point, I think they lost the game.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that it's interesting, Brad, just hearing some of the commentary, even from back home, from cricket fans and even in the media, sort of around, the bowlers have saved Australia again. And, that the batting issues are all there to see. And once again, it's the bowling group. There's so many wickets between the four of them. But I think that's being a bit unfair in the sense that this was actually won largely by the middle order of Australia. Correct. So Travis Head, Beau Webster, Alex Carey, all getting 50s, all doing it in different ways. And even from a Travis Head point of view, he did it differently the way he would normally do it.
Yeah.
But I think from that point of view, it went from a situation where when Head was dropped, the lead for Australia was only 98.
Yeah.
But then they get a lead of 300.
Correct.
So we're talking about a really important part in the game. That's there. And the West Indies want to focus on what happened the day before with the Shai Hope catch.
Yeah.
He was given out 40 for 48. That was the biggest moment in the game. I think there's no doubt that was a key moment in the game. But the drop catch of Head, from there, that was like, no, they can't come back from here.
Yeah, you could just see the morale change, right? Shamar Joseph kept running in. So did Jaden Seals every time he was thrown the ball or they were thrown the ball. But you could just see that the sting was gone maybe 15, 20 minutes after that Head dropped catch. And I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. Travis Head, we've come to know, he's now become the serial problem fixer or the serial crisis man for Australia in Test cricket. He has been for 3-4 years. Alex Carey, from that Christchurch innings onwards, has played so many crucial hands, mostly in very aggressive fashion, in batted like a wicket keeper, as Ian Healy likes to say, and bailed them out of trouble or given them that extra impetus when it matters most. We thought we did it at Lords with this 48 in very difficult batting conditions, but that wasn't to be. But this one for sure. But for me, you could have even, Travis Head got the player of the match for his 250s, but Bo Webster's innings for me was the standout yesterday and probably in this entire Test match. And the maturity he showed and the fact that he was one player who was ready to graft it out, who was ready to really find a way and grind it out yesterday. He did hit some attractive boundaries, but I think the maturity he showed yesterday would resonate or should resonate in that dressing room with the top order as well.
We'll talk more about Bo Webster and his role in the team a little bit later on, and also Alex Carey. There's two of the talking points that we're going to get through with the new ball for Cobram Estate. I just want to make one more comment on Travis Head before we take a break, because it's something that you've just said that's kind of pricked my interest. With Travis Head coming into the team as a number 5, and this happens in most teams, the number 5, they're the ones that propel the game forward. They're a bit of a dasher, bat aggressively. They're not the cream on top of the cake, but they're almost that.
Correct.
Travis Head plays like that dashing number 5 that gets his runs quickly. But what he's also doing is, while he's doing that, he's actually the rescue operations man as well.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go and do it in a stoic sort of Steve Waugh way. He does it in a Travis Head way and still is successful in doing it. And this goes back a long time now.
The Ashes of 21-22.
That's exactly right. So it's unusual for someone to play like that in the circumstances. Not the role. The role of a number 5 is to play the way Travis Head plays, but it's the circumstances that he's still able to do it so successfully. It's amazing, I reckon.
We've reached a point where we have to acknowledge that Steve Smith still remains the most important batter in this Australian Test team. But Travis Head, by far, is the most influential batter in this Australian Test team. Steve Smith does what Steve Smith does.
Yeah.
Right? He's once-in-a-generation batter. But I think Travis Head has impacted more Test matches for Australia than anyone else in that batting lineup since that Ashes 21-22, and consistently in big moments across formats, whether it's the World Test Championship final of 2023 or so many times on home soil. A few times against the West Indies where Australia have been in a bit of bother, or during the home summer against South Africa in 22-23, the 100 at the Adelaide Oval when Australian cricket was in crisis this summer after the Perth defeat. So there are so many examples of that, and he just keeps doing it. And this is very different. He wasn't scoring at a strike rate of 90 or 100. It was more in the 70s, so still quick in relation to everybody else. But he did it in the first innings. He did it in the second innings. And I think his strangle down the leg side in the first innings at Lords probably was, in the bigger picture, the biggest moment of that World Test Championship final.
I've talked to a lot of people in cricket about this. I can't think of another player like Travis Head in recent memory. Because what he does is he can take the game away from the opposition so quickly. He can rescue a team so often. But at the same point, when you're watching him, and I reckon when you're playing against him, you always feel he's a chance to play a bad shot or to get bowled because his technique's not quite as conventional as others. But even though you always think he's a chance, they very rarely get him out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
It is.
Balls never go to fielders when they get hit in the air with him. It's amazing.
I think it just comes down to, I think it's a lesson in life, if I may be philosophical for a second, is if you have the clarity and conviction in what you're doing, which he definitely does with bat in hand, regardless of how society views you, this could well be something about my fashion sense as well, you still... you know what you're doing, and you will be successful. And I think that's a great lesson in cricket and life, like I said, in what Travis Head does. And you speak to him about his batting, you speak to him about his approach. It's really not changed ever since he kind of cemented himself at number 5. I mean, you go back to that Ashes, I was there at the Karen Rolton Oval. Queensland, South Australia battled for the number 5 between Usman Khawaja and Travis Head. Usman Khawaja makes the 100 in the second innings, or Travis Head makes the 100 in the second innings, but Queensland won and Usman Khawaja looked a better batter in a way. Australia stuck with Travis Head, and then the rest is history. He made that 100 at the Gabba, and then since has become the, like I said, the most influential batter in this team.
Know your game, tick. Know yourself, tick. That's Travis Head.
There you go.
We'll take a break on the new ball for Cobram Estate. That is ball 1. There's plenty more balls to deliver, plenty more to discuss. Cobram Estate, premium Australian extra virgin olive oil, and Australia made by local, our proud partners of the new ball. Back with more after this. It is the new ball for Cobram Estate, premium Australian extra virgin olive oil, and also Australia made by local. Before we get to ball 2, the news for Belgravia Apparel for quality New Balance cricket teamwear certainly centres around Steve Smith and whether he will be available for Test 2. Now, he was, Bharat, scheduled to arrive in the West Indies today from New York. Pat Cummins spoke about the fact that he'd been batting and training and doing all sorts of things stateside. But we just don't know yet until probably they get to Grenada and he starts batting in the nets as to whether he'll be available to play.
Oh, he wants to play. He's desperate to play the form that he's been in. I mean, he would have seen the batting conditions here, and you just can imagine a scenario where he would have problem solved his way into finding runs on this surface or in these conditions, because that is just the form he's been in. 400s in 5 tests and now 400s in 6 tests for Steve Smith. And yeah, he's scheduled to speak to us tomorrow. I mean, you decipher what tomorrow means to you, but on, what is it, today, Saturday? So Sunday, June 29th, he's supposed to speak to the Australian media here. So we'll wait and see what he has to say. But because of the finger, because it's the pinky and he's got time now to have obviously gripped the bat and get used to doing that, I'd be very surprised, unless it's something more serious than what we know, if he doesn't just come back with the team.
We'll talk more about that tomorrow when we find out a little bit more information from the man himself. Belgravia Apparel, providing high-quality New Balance teamwear to community cricket clubs and associations around the country. The new ball for Cobram Estate. Let's get into the second ball, which is about what did we learn about the Australian cricket team that we didn't already know?
Not much. I mean, in the sense, what we've always known about this Australian team is, I mean, there's one reason why they're world beaters and they've been world champions and they're just coming off a World Test Championship final, is they just find ways of winning Test matches where they are not in front not in front throughout. And yesterday was dramatic in how quickly, if you just broke down the number of sessions that the two teams won, going into the third morning, I think West Indies were ahead, in my opinion. It was 4-2. But then the fact that they think of it as a tennis game, so it went from 4-2 to 6-4 very quickly, and I think that is the beauty of this Australian team under Pat Cummins. They always are. They're not really ruffled by anything. Perth was a rare example of that, of them being ruffled, but they generally don't panic and they hold their nerve because of what we've just spoken of, because you have the likes of Travis Head and Alex Carey, and you had Mitchell Marsh when he was in form doing what Bo Webster is doing now. at that number 6 position. So they're used to doing that. And then obviously when you have the greatest quartet to have ever played Test cricket as a combination, so it's a big statement to make when you're sitting here at Kensington Oval. But they have.
Well,
statistically,
I've got some information on that shortly.
There you
we'll
go.
get to.
Statistically, they and for other reasons, they are the greatest quartet. You just bank on them to finish matches off like this Australian team did against a pretty weak West Indian batting lineup, has to be said. But the big question is not number 5 onwards. Like, so 5 to 11, bat and ball, we kind of knew what to expect. Yep. And even though Bo Webster is so young in his Test career, he's already shown what he's made of. The big question is the top 4. Usman Khawaja, we'll leave him out of this because we spoke a lot about him on day one, and he showed what you need to do when you get dropped or when you get chances in Test cricket. You have to make the most of it, and he ground out 47 crucial runs in the bigger picture. So I think you can argue about how long he's got left and all of that, but I thought in the larger context of the game, he did his job in the first innings, got a really good delivery in the second innings. But the other 3, especially Sam Konstas and Cam Green, what have we learned about them? Cam Green has now played 3 Test matches at number 3, and they've made it very clear, the selectors, that they're going to invest in him, and Pat Cummins, they're going to invest in him at number 3 for a while, till the time Steve Smith continues to play Test cricket, because he will finish his career at number 4. He's not going to open again. Don't worry about that. So I guess it's just has to be a wait and watch with Cam Green, because for 2 reasons. A, Cam Green has been anointed as the someone who the batting lineup will revolve around going into the next phase. So at 26, you've given him 3 chances, and just on the basis of how he looked yesterday in his 6th innings, was it 6th innings? No, 4th innings.
4th innings, but he's batted a bit at 4 now as well.
But 4th innings, 4th innings at number 3. You could say slight improvement. He looked good.
He looked all right.
Yeah, he did not look nervy and edgy, and till that last over where Justin Graves had him trapped LBW or trapped in front, and there was more controversy about where the ball hit and whether it hit the front pad or not, and that seemed to rattle him a little, because he played a couple of odd shots, and the second one he paid for getting caught in the slips. Actually, West Indies actually did take a catch at slip. There you go.
You know what happened? He got bogged down.
He did.
And that's the thing, is we talked a lot about him getting nervous when he first starts batting, but the other thing is, which is an experience thing, I think, is the problem solving of, when I get bogged down, how do I get out of that? And he threw his hands at a few and ended up getting caught doing that. He tried to advance. That was when there was the LBW decision where he sort of tried to get out of his crease. So he was trying to do things he just couldn't. He stopped being able to score.
Correct.
And that was a bit of a problem there. Look, I'm a bit with you, and I've said this, and I'll keep saying it to myself, and while we're doing the New Ball podcast, and that is, be patient and let it play out. Let it play out. Now, is Konstas good enough? We don't know. The signs at the moment are probably not, but let it play out, because at the end of the day, you've got Marnus on the sidelines. You've got Steve Smith sitting there. You've got the likes of Bancroft and Harris sitting back in Shield cricket, that if they need to go back to them, they know what they can do largely. But let these guys see whether they're good enough.
I'm a little not disappointed, but I'm a little staggered by the lack of in between when it comes to discussing Sam Konstas as a subject, because there seems to be 2 parties and at 2 extremes. One is, you cannot criticize Sam Konstas. How dare you say something about our wonder kid? He's 19. Let him be. Let him grow up. But that's not how sport works. But then there's the other extreme saying, how dare you play a 19-year-old? Get rid of him. Marcus Harris, bring him back. Marcus Harris is sweating. Marcus Harris is not sleeping. He's throwing stuff at his TV because he's upset with the way Sam Konstas is playing. But what about the nuance? Why aren't
you're not meant to talk about things off air?
Oh, sorry about that.
Are you joking?
I know, you are. Well, I hope our listeners know you are. No, but I just use Marcus Harris to rile you up. But those 2 seem to be the large narratives here. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at it, in my opinion anyway, is 2 of the 3 test matches he's played have been on in extremely difficult batting conditions at the SCG, where I've never seen the SCG like that. And you're up against Jasprit Bumrah on any pitch, it's difficult. But the SCG, and nobody scored runs, and eventually in a Bumrah-less attack, Australia just got over the line, didn't they? Thanks to Bo Webster, and Usman Khawaja got runs. But and here, against high-quality bowling, and, we've spoken a lot about how brilliant the West Indies have been. Obviously, so West Indies needed to be brilliant to do what they did to Australia, but once you saw the damage they could do on this pitch and these conditions, you're like, oh, West Indies stand no chance against Hazlewood, Starc and Cummins, and that was proven true. But so the question is, or it boils down to technique for me. It really does boil down to technique. And even with that, either they say Sam Konstas, or people describe Sam Konstas as this swashbuckling, reverse ramping batter. And then they say, oh, but he's also this sound technician that we haven't seen yet. That second bit I don't agree with, and he would be the first one to tell you, because he has been working on his technique. He does bat more conventionally in Test cricket. He tried in that 38 ball stay. There were periods where he tried to bat conventionally. There were periods where probably the nerves got the better of him and he charged at deliveries or tried to break free. But there's a big difference between batting conventionally and being Rahul Dravid. Yeah. And he's not Rahul Dravid. He's not Manas Labuschagne. He's not, this technique hasn't evolved to that level where he's able to kind of problem solve in the middle, where, yes, I mean, he's got that thing where he gets bowled quite a bit. There is a gap between bat and pad. The bat face is slightly open. But when you are experienced in Test cricket, you score runs despite of that, or because of that as well. If you are Steve Smith and you have you're a freak, right? Like, you just have this unique technique and you scored 10,000 runs. So I think we have to be patient with him, but also we need to have more nuanced discussions about him. Don't dismiss people who criticize him, but at the same time, don't dismiss him or the selectors for banking on him.
Yeah, we were talking before about Travis Head, how unique he is. Sam Konstas definitely falls into that category. I think one of the things, an observation I've had about him, is that it's either block or try and hit a 4 or 6, rather than, I'd like to see him, and I've talked a lot to people in cricket about this, and I think it's a really good lesson for everybody, is learn to hit 2s.
Yeah.
So that's where you can push through the covers for 2. If it goes for 4, fantastic, but it's that in-between defence and attack. It's that mid-range, and I think that's what Steve Smith does particularly well, the way he can engineer the ball into gaps to get 1s and 2s, keep the scoreboard ticking over where he's not getting bogged down. And I think with Konstas, he wants to be defensive, and then he looks up at the scoreboard and the scoreboard's not going forward. I've just got to try and do something here to break the shackles and to get the scoreboard moving over, rather than just finding a way to just, you know what I mean? Like, just get the ball with a 2 behind point, or flick off the pads for 2 through mid-wicket, just to get the scoreboard ticking over, rather than feeling he's got to do something extraordinary.
Yeah, I think Manas Labuschagne, when he was at his peak, was doing what you said Steve Smith was doing, like rotating the strike, getting into your innings.
Busy.
David Warner used to do it spectacularly well. And
Mike Hussey.
But because we're talking openers, I think, and attacking openers, what David Warner did, which Konstas hasn't done so far in Test cricket, is that. I mean, just the quick running, and he would get whoever his opening partner was. And Usman Khawaja benefited a lot from batting with David Warner, because you'd get you going. You'd get the innings going not just by hitting boundaries, but with those quick runs like singles and 2s. And you're right. And I think he'll learn. He seems to have, the one thing I will say about Sam Konstas is he seems to have a personality where, there's the natural nerves and the stresses of being 19. It's not easy being a teenager, as we both know, Whitey. But he does seem to have the ability to shut the whatever has happened to him. And you saw him in the field. I mean, the dropped catch in the outfield, you could see he was a little shaken by it, but he had the presence of mind to take a very sharp catch to finish the game at short leg, 15 minutes after that. So I guess he will come good at some point. The one thing he would be disappointed with is Test cricket rarely gives you chances, and he got 2 2 dropped catches in the same over. Like, so 2 errors you made, and you couldn't make the most of it. But he would go back and maybe have a chat with Usman Khawaja and see what Usman Khawaja did in the first innings. And once he gets that, and we won't know whether he is the next big thing of Australian cricket till we see him play 5-10 test matches. So I think we need to calm down on both fronts, but also don't just have this blanket, put a safety net around him and say, no, we'll protect him. Like, don't harm this child. Leave
He's
him
only
alone.
19.
Yeah, that doesn't help him either.
No, it doesn't help him, and he shouldn't be protected because he's playing for Australia.
Correct.
So, and this is what we talked about the other day, is that I'm happy for him to be out there, no dramas, but he's still got to bat properly to a point, because you've got other guys that are putting in the work and put a lot of pride on their wickets that are currently not in the team. That is Bolter. We could do a Sam Konstas podcast every day, I think.
We can.
And have
and again, honestly,
which is good for cricket.
It is great for cricket. The fact that everybody wants to know more about Sam.
Yeah.
The fact that everybody wants to talk more about Sam is a good thing for Test cricket in Australia, especially during footy season.
All right, ball 3. We'll make this one a quicker one because we have kind of spoken about Josh Hazlewood. But as a quartet playing together, so that is Cummins, Hazlewood, Lyon and Starc, they now have 550 wickets as a quartet. And the spread's interesting. It's 147 Cummins, 137 Hazlewood, 128 Lyon and 138 Starc. So that, we are talking about one of the greatest bowling quartets in the history of the game.
The greatest. Because, often when you talk about the great West Indies, you talk about Holding, Roberts, Marshall and Garner. But they didn't play that many test matches with each other, because Marshall obviously comes in slightly later in the piece, because it was originally, like the Clive Lloyd quartet, was Roberts, Holding, Garner and Croft. And it was only in the late 70s that Malcolm Marshall came on board. And then Malcolm Marshall continued to play for 4 or 5 more years. He then led the attack with Curtly Ambrose and Courtney Walsh and Patrick Patterson and Ian Bishop for a while longer. So now nobody's done what these 4 have done. And it's interesting, those numbers, right? There's a reason why you have 3 of the probably the greatest fast bowlers to ever play Test cricket in Starc, Hazlewood and Cummins. None of them have a crazy 8-for or a 7-for, or none of it. So 6-for, I think, for all 3. It's in the 6s, their best innings figures. So that kind of tells you the story.
I've got to credit Rick Finlay, one of the great cricket statisticians in Australia, with that information there. And then you throw in Scotty Boland, who's got a bowling average of under 20 as sort of the 5th member, the 5th Beatle. Whether he will play the next test, we'll talk about that tomorrow, around whether there's any rotation potentially for Test 2. There's no doubt that Scotty Boland particularly, and even Sean Abbott, did a fair bit of work between the Test match, at lunch breaks and before play, just to make sure that they're ready if required. This is the new ball for Cobram Estate, premium Australian extra virgin olive oil, and Australia made by local. We'll have more of the new ball right after this. It is the new ball for Cobram Estate, premium Australian extra virgin olive oil and Australia made by local. The last ball. I've got 2 questions actually for you. Ooh. This is the first one, the more important one. Can the West Indies recover from this, considering they were very close, but then, as I said at the start, the bottom fell out of them? Can they recover?
Not with the batting. No, the batting's just so... we said the same after Adelaide last year, and they came and won at the gap, but that was purely because of one man, if you think about it, and some contributions here and there. We'll see if they stick with the same squad. West Indies are prone to make drastic changes. Craig Brathwaite's 100th test next week in Grenada. He reminds me of what happened with Dimuth Karnaratne last few months ago.
Yeah.
He played his 99th test and then said, okay, my next one, he wasn't scoring runs. Yeah. Next one will be my 100th and my last. So I wonder if that is how Brathwaite's career ends. He's slightly younger than him. But with the batting looking the way it is, I think it'll come down to the pitch. If it's a slow one that we can see in the Eastern Caribbean countries, Grenada and St. Vincent and St. Kitts, maybe. But if they continue to bat the way... what we saw of them so far, John Campbell playing the paddle and Brandon King not looking ready for Test cricket, there'll be more of the same, because how many more times can their bowlers really do what they did and keep themselves in the game? That was a big question.
Yeah. All right, we might talk more about that tomorrow as well as the dust settles on this first test in Barbados. We're off to the races this afternoon, which is very exciting. My last question for you. I don't know where you got them from, but we've got Pakistani donuts here. We've got a green one and a blue one. The colours on top of them, the icing, are exactly like the one-day tops from the 80s. Are you going to have the green one or the blue one?
I can't have anything blue anymore since I turned my back on India, so I'll stick with the green.
All right, I'll certainly have the blue. I'll have either colour. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it again tomorrow. I hope you've enjoyed the new ball for Cobram Estate. We're loving our time over here in Barbados. We'll see you tomorrow.